The Sal Sirchia Show, the mayor of rock and roll.
Hey, folks, how we doing out there? This is the Sal Sirchia show number 12, folks. And I hope you're all keeping toasty warm. And those guys that I know in Florida, you're a bunch of spot cheams because you just put on Facebook that it's like 80 degrees over there. And we have like 20 degrees here with the wind. It feels like 10. Right, Joanne?
That's right. Very cold.
Okay, well, we got an amazing show here. There's a lot of excitement been going on Facebook and Twitter and all these places. I just made like 100 new friends that I've never met before in my life because of Steve. They've just been friend requesting me, and all kind of rock and roll people and musicians. But Steve Thompson, we have tonight, who is a American record producer, and me and him have been friends. We met in like 1985, and we still friends after all these. It's like 28 years already. And Steve has won so many Grammy awards for songs with Whitney Houston, and the list goes on. The Blues Travelers, but he's worked with so many people. The list just goes on. And you know what? Instead of me doing like a 20-minute introduction, why don't we just have a warm welcome for Brother Steve Thompson out there? Yay.
Brother Sal, first of all, I'd like to apologize to everyone if I sound a little deep tonight. I got a chest cold from this brilliant weather we're having on the East Coast here.
So I
apologize right away. Anyway,
you would never
up?
think a guy like Steve would feel a cold. You figure, he's a big record producer and all that. You don't have to feel a cold, but we're all human. Even the big superstars have to feel the cold.
I didn't want to say eat organic food, take vitamins and everything like that. And, for the last couple of days, I've been shoveling my roof.
Now let me ask you something. You have a two-story house, or you got one of those houses that just about? How do you get to your roof? From the inside, or you got to climb a ladder on the outside?
Well, it's kind of interesting. It's like about 4 or 5 porch decks. We live on a private lake, so it's really nice and picturesque. But the snow has been absolutely brutal this year. I am done. We're moving. We're going to go find an island somewhere and repopulate it.
Well, Florida and California, and I guess Vegas. Those are the
Not
only
Florida.
places.
That's the for the people who don't come from New York. This is the evolution of New Yorkers.
Yeah.
They're born in Brooklyn. They live in Queens for a while. They do Long Island. They do Manhattan. They retire to Florida. I'm not following that pattern.
You're exactly right. Everybody I know has done that. Brooklyn, Queens, Long Island.
I was born in Brooklyn. I lived in Queens. Then I lived in Long Island, and then Manhattan. Excuse me, I'm about to cough. 1 second.
Let it rip, brother. We could lay down, record that cough because you could maybe use it on one of on a track of somebody's demo, maybe Snow. That'd be you worked with Snow, so between the cough and the snow outside.
Well, actually, it's interesting. I'm watching, I'm an avid Knicks fan, obviously. And I can't stand the All-Star game. There's just so much pomp and circumstance. So I'm watching St. John's play Georgetown.
More and more I have noticed all my friends that are like huge, big people in the music business are all huge sports fans. They don't talk about music. They work with music and they talk about sports. You, Patrick Clifford, a bunch of other guys I know, they're always talking about sports. Like you tell me about the Super. I have no idea who when they had the Super Bowl. Who's playing? The Mets, the Yankees? I have no idea what's going on with that.
Well, first of all, the sports thing is kind of interesting. I find that people in the sports fields gravitate to people in the music field and vice versa. I've had so many friends like on the Jets, on the Knicks. We just it's interesting because sports people are all want to be musicians. And I think most people in the music business want to be sports people.
And you're 100% right, because I remember the days when me and you were hanging out at the China Club, and I met LT. I had no idea what he did. Remember LT? I was in the bathroom at the China Club with him, and I was sitting. Somebody came up to me and said, "I can't believe," because I was talking to LT for a few days, and I had no idea what he did. I thought he was an actor or a musician. So somebody came up to me in the bathroom and said, I can't believe you know, LT, I would give my left arm to hang out with him. So I said, I got to ask him what he does. So I come out of the bathroom. I sit back at the table at the China Club. I say, hey, LT, what do you do? Are you an actor, a movie star, a musician? What do you? He says, you're kidding me, right? I said, no.
Oh, no, you didn't.
I swear to God, I had no idea what he did. To me, he wore those long leather jackets, and he had the earring and that, like, kind of like Billy Idol haircut, you know, tall guy.
Yeah, well, it's sorry to cut you off, but yeah. I went to Def Jam Comedy with LT. Now, understand, I was probably one of the few white guys in there, and thank God LT got my back, because I said they always pick on the white guys. So I said, LT, if they start picking on me, I hope you got my back. He goes, sure, no problem.
And he was like 7 feet tall, so nobody's going to mess with you guys.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. You know, we talk about the China Club. I don't know how many people know about the club, but, you know, my apartment in Manhattan was about 5 blocks from the China Club, and the studio I did a lot of work at was at Media Sound on 57th between 8th and 9th. Mm-hmm. So it was interesting, you know, it was after my sessions, just to chill out and everything, I'd go to the China Club. I think my posse was Julian Lennon, Billy Idol, actually Mike Tyson. I hung out with him a couple of times there, and what was really funny is that, you know, the back room where all the wrestling guys from Hulk Hogan, Sylvester Stallone, they were all hanging out in the back room doing some stupid shit.
Well, do you remember, I could picture the night exactly when me, you, Billy Joel, and Julian Lennon were sitting at the table on the deck, and we hung out for hours talking, and then I said to Julian, I said, hey, Julian, how does it feel to be hanging out with 3 paisans? Thinking all this time, because Billy Joel always liked to pinch my cheeks, like a paisan would do, like, hey. So I thought he was Italian. I find out later on, I think it was talking to Richie Canada. I said, hey, Rich, I was hanging out with our paisan, Billy Joel tonight. He goes, paisan? He goes, Billy Joel's Jewish.
He's not Italian.
I didn't know that. He looks, you know what made me think he's Italian? Because, first of all, when he was younger, he had that Sylvester Stallone look. They had that kind of same look about them. You know.
Yeah. I mean, I remember his Brillo hair when he did that Cold Spring Harbor album.
Exactly.
Brillo hair that went all the way down. I think he looks better without it.
With the mustache.
Anyway, I hope I'm not boring our listeners. I don't know what they want, so we're getting into old school time here.
No, we got Steve Thompson and the Mayor of Rock and Roll together hanging out, and Joanne Baby. How could anything be boring here? All right, you know what? Let's, going back to that night, it was me, you, Julian Lennon, and Billy Joel, and he kept pinching my cheeks. So I thought he was Italian, right? And another night, that's a great thing, I got to tell everybody, me, Steve Thompson, and the whole band, the Psychedelic Furs, all piled up into my LTD Ford. Remember that, Steve? You were sitting in the front. I had the whole band piled up in the back. And I showed them all around Times Square, Manhattan. You remember that night, Steve?
I don't remember that, but, you know, it was interesting. I have to say one thing. Everybody asked me this question. Well, was there any artist or band or anything that spurred you to get into music? And to me, it was David Bowie.
Really?
And I remember watching David Bowie perform the Ziggy Stardust show at Radio City Music Hall. I don't know if it was 1973 or 74. It blew me away.
Now,
and to make a long story short, to me, Richard Butler's Psychedelic Furs was the next incarnation of Bowie. Loved them. I had a chance to work with them on the Midnight to Midnight album. And if Dennis McNamara is listening from WLIR, probably one of the best DJs of all time in New York, I will say, is that, you know, we worked together. It was interesting. I got really close to Richard, and we would play chess every day in my apartment. And so did I actually bring them to the China Club, the whole band? Was that Richard included?
Yes. Yeah, you brought the whole band there. And the singer who looked like David Bowie stayed at the club. Yeah, the singer stayed at the club, and then me, you, and the rest of the band, the guy John, what was his name, John, the guitar player?
John Ashton, I believe it was.
Yeah, they came in my car. All 3 of them were in the back seat. The singer stayed at the club because he was rapping to some girl. And I
don't know if you want to say that, because when I was working on him, he was married, or maybe he had a girlfriend. Maybe it was his girlfriend at the time.
Well, maybe it was his wife. I mean, maybe brother's wife did that night. But that was the time you were working with them on that album. What was that?
Heartbreak Beat. I'll never forget that song.
Yeah, what was it, about 1987?
Good question. Mid-'80s to late 80s, yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, probably around there. Yeah, I would say so. Good
No,
call.
there's probably a ton of people, Steve, out there who are listening. That even though they probably what were you what got you wanted to be a record producer? Because you're also a musician and a great musician as well. Because
no. Let's forget about the great musician. I'll be the first to say it's probably one of the world's worst guitar players ever.
Well, I
tried hard. To make a long story short, I played guitar as a kid. My brother's a doctor now. Was actually a better guitar player than me. I
jammed with you a little bit at your house when I came to your house in Long Island, and you had that little room with the guitars on the stand, and we played some pool. And
okay.
And I jammed with you. I played a little bass, and you were playing guitar, and I thought you were very good. I mean, how good you want to be?
Thanks, Sal. I'll give you the money later for that one. No, but it was interesting. I think the evolution of how I became a record producer. I was in a band, got nowhere with it, wound up becoming a club DJ in New York. Did that for a while, and then it was interesting. I got hooked up with TK Records, and make a long story short, I started doing remixes for dance records and working with a guy, Mike Arado. So I did that for a while. My tastes were very varied for my whole life. I went from James Brown to Zeppelin to Sabbath, everything. I just liked it all.
Mm-hmm.
In the 70s, I was definitely into the glam rock stuff.
Right.
But, so I did that. I started doing a lot of dance remixes. And then, when you did that, I brought musicians into the studio, and I had a great engineer partner work with me, Mike Barbiero. It was amazing. He taught me everything I knew about the studio because I was so green, I'll be the first to tell you. And he's great at music theory, great engineer, great everything, and I just learned from him. And so I, built up a good rapport with musicians, and that's what led me into producing. And it was interesting. Probably early, I started doing a lot of radio shows in New York from BLS Kiss KTU. Then I started doing a lot of alternative rock, which they called New Wave at the time. I started working with bands like Tears for Fears, Shout, Ultravox, Psychedelic Furs, Talk, It's My Life. I did all these records, and it was great. Then I got into pop, working with Whitney Houston, I Want to Dance with Somebody, Madonna, Open Your Heart, Aretha Franklin. I got to a point, this is probably about 85 or 86, where I said, I need to do some rock stuff. I'm going crazy. So I made a call to Tom Zutaut, who was A&R at Geffen Records at the time.
Mm-hmm.
I said, Tom, you got to hook me up with some rock bands, please. And the first two bands he gave me was Tesla and Guns N' Roses. I mean, how cool was that?
I remember that. I was hanging out with you at that time.
Yeah, so it was interesting. We were supposed to produce the Guns N' Roses record, but we worked on Tesla record one. We were absolutely burnt. I mean, I kept getting demos from Zutaut on GNR. In fact, November Rain was on the list of Beyond Appetite for Destruction.
Mm-hmm.
And we wound up mixing the record, and the rest, then we started getting all these hard rock bands to work with, which is great, We did Metallica and Justice for All, and what was funny about Metallica is the reason why they hired us is they loved the work we did with Madonna. Who would have ever thunk that?
Mm. Oh, yeah.
That's how we got the gig for Metallica. You see, you never know it. It was interesting. I remember because I was a big hip hop freak, Public Enemy, NWA, and everything. And I remember Hank Shockley, who was Public Enemy's producer, when he heard the record I did, Shout, Tears for Fears, he loved the drum sound so much he used it. So that was kind of a compliment.
Yeah, and I've noticed more and more in the music business. I mean, when you're in the music business, like even what was that guy, the heavy metal guy, the producer or writer who wrote for Britney Spears' first album? He basically used to be a heavy metal writer, and all of a sudden he wrote these songs for Britney Spears on the first album. They were like huge. So it's like that's the same kind of situation like what you're talking about. You went from doing, the drum sounds for this, which brought you to Madonna or whatever. So I mean, once you're in the music business, they hear different things that you could come up with, and that's the way it works, I guess.
No,
right or wrong?
I'm probably an anomaly because I never wanted to just work on just one type of music because that would bore me. Right. And I remember when I auditioned engineers back in the day, I wanted to pick an engineer that can go from like Johnny Mathis to Metallica,
Yeah.
And that was always and still important to this day. Because obviously when you work with an artist and they become very successful, all artists of that genre come crawling to you saying, hey, I remember when I was doing Korn, you don't know how many Korn wannabe bands came up to me and said, I've already done that.
Right.
Give me something new. Challenge me. I need to be challenged.
Absolutely.
And it's interesting. To this day, I still love electronic music. I love everything. I can go from Andrea Bocelli to some really cool stuff.
Well, a few months ago, you would let me hear some of the stuff you did with Snow. That was really interesting and different than stuff that you've done. And I was like, listening to him, like, wow, yeah, Brother Steve's going from Metallica to Snow, and that's a great thing because you got to be open-minded. It's good to be open-minded. These musicians and friends. I have a lot of friends and people I've played with, and they're like not open-minded to things. Me, I've always been open-minded to different styles. I like everything. Like my record collection as a kid, I had from Engelbert Humperdinck, Tom Jones, Elvis, the Beatles, the Who, Cheap Trick, Led Zeppelin, and
I say working with Cheap Trick was probably one of my favorites to work with. Love that band. But that's the whole thing about music is I get in so many different mood swings, and again, I love to be challenged, and I love working on a lot of different stuff. And what I like about kids today is they like it all. And that's great, because I remember music has become you can hear a lot of different influences in a lot of music that's out there today.
Yeah. Oh, and that's the good thing about being open-minded because you're able to get all different ideas and you put that all together into a song that you write from, you're hearing, everybody, so many people everybody loves the Beatles. So, I'm a big Beatle maniac. So you get those beautiful melody ideas in your head. Then, you love another blues band or Led Zeppelin, and you get that kind of a guitar feel in your Beatle melody song. So, like what David Lee Roth said to me once at the China Club, David Lee Roth said, he goes, you got to steal the songs. You got to take a part from that band and take a piece from that band, take a piece from that band, and make it your own. He said, good enough for Beethoven, good enough for me.
Well, you take those influences. I think a lot of people still don't know that rock came from R&B. Okay, that was the essence of it. And I remember in the '80s there was a lot of beat progressions from rock bands to four-timing, which I always hated. I always loved the swing groove. I would have to teach white drummers the value of a James Brown groove, because I don't care what kind of music you do, it should be danceable. You know what I mean?
Oh, definitely.
And as far as the Beatles, what I really, because when I grew up as a kid, obviously it was the Beatles and Stones. And what I loved about what George Martin did, everybody says, well, there's things. Well, what did he actually do to the band? Obviously, he put a sense of orchestration there. I think he worked a lot on the harmonies and melodies, because I think the Beatles, they were into, not Peter and Gordon, maybe it was the Everly Brothers, their harmonies. I think they were into them. And I absolutely love their harmonies, what they did. It's interesting if you look at some Beatles songs like She Loves You, Yeah, Yeah, Yeah. If you wrote a lyric like that today, you'd be laughed out of business.
Oh, of course. I mean, even with these shows, American Idol, either you got to sing like Whitney Houston or Mariah Carey, or you got to be so bad that you're funny. There's no in-betweens. If the Beatles or Elvis Presley auditioned for American Idol, they wouldn't make it. Either you got to sing like I said, like Mariah Carey or Whitney Houston or Selena.
Well, see, that's where I have a problem, the way people are being neutered today. Because a lot of music today, you've lost the human feel of it. And I feel instead of having perfect pitch, I'd rather have perfect feel on a singer. It's that human emotion that kind of gets lost by being very sterile and slick. Yeah. Obviously, I work with Whitney Houston. What an amazing voice, okay? I worked with Aretha. I was very fortunate to work with amazing singers, but there's still a human emotion to what they're singing. It's like everybody uses auto-tune to make that voice perfect. Can you imagine if they put Kurt Cobain on auto-tune, how much of a disaster it would sound like?
Exactly.
Now, I really feel, again, depends on the type of music you're doing, but I really feel that, to me, I think people are going to gravitate to that human feel of music that seems to be getting lost today.
Yeah, true. You're right. And you've been doing a lot of new stuff as well. I mean, what's been going on lately? Well, we got 1 minute to go to commercial. Joanne, should we go to commercial right now and come back?
She left the building.
Oh, Joanne has left the building. She heard about Elvis.
So I was taking a call for you. That's what happened.
Oh no, I know you're busy.
Somebody's holding, but I'll go to commercial and we'll do that when we get back.
Okay, sounds good. We'll be right back in a few with Steve Thompson.
Here is a well-documented fact. Humans spend approximately 33% of life in bed. That's a good reason to consider bringing your bed into the 21st century with Function All Linens. They'll change your bedtime forever. Designed for every kind of bedtime you can imagine, these fun and functional bed sheets have his and her side pockets that hold pretty much everything but the kitchen sink. The pockets allow you to have your cell phone, iPad, remotes, and anything else you need within your fingertips' reach at all times. No more cluttered nightstands. No more fumbling around in the dark. Simply reach for your pocket. Experience the affordable comfort and pure luxury that only Function All Linens can offer. For more information or to order, visit functionall-linens.com or beddazzle.com.
Every person who has a home desires to live in beauty, harmony, and comfort, says Valentina of Valentina Interiors and Designs. In business since 1990, Italian-born designer Valentina has been producing interiors and exteriors designs to suit and embrace mind, soul, body, and functionality. Beauty without functionality is only daydreaming. Valentina creates realities. Valentina's goal as an interior designer is to touch and transform people's lives while transforming their spaces. Visit her at www.valentinadesigns.com or call for design consultations online and in-home. 650-346-6349.
And we are back, folks, with Brother Steve Thompson, record producer, Grammy Award winner for songs like I Want to Dance with Somebody, Whitney Houston, Cutting Crew, the song was called the Broadcast Album. It's a broadcast album, right? Korn followed.
Yeah, actually, that won a Grammy. It was pretty cool.
Yeah,
actually,
you won a few Grammys. You won a Grammy for Blues Traveler.
Kind of pissed off. The ones that we should have won, how did Guns N' Roses not get a Grammy? And how did Metallica, we lost to Jethro Tull. That's best metal album of the year. I was at that Grammys, and it just floored me.
yeah. No, I see. You were on TV that time too, right? Yeah,
it was interesting. I was at the time. I think I was with Raquel Welch and my wife Joanne.
Yes, I saw that. I was like, look at Brother Steve hanging out getting the Grammys. Swine.
Well, it was funny. Howard Stern had the microphone, was interviewing everybody, right? So obviously he goes up to Raquel, and then he asks, who's this guy? And he goes, oh, you're Steve Thompson? Cool. And then I remember walking in there, and Joan Rivers pinching my ass, and I almost smacked her.
Oh, man. And while we were at commercial, Brother Steve, we got Paul Melchior just called in, and he's a huge fan of yours. He's got a couple of questions. Paul, you there?
What's up, Sal?
Hey, man, Paul Melchior out there. He's also a great guitar player, singer, songwriter. And
how's it going, Paul? How you doing?
How are you, Steve? How you doing?
I'm trying to get rid of this cold, and I'm looking forward to getting out of this weather, but otherwise everything's good.
I know, it's ridiculous. I've been shoveling for like the last week.
I mean, God seems to be not happy with this world right now with all the weather changes and everything.
I know, it's crazy.
So what questions you have, Paul?
You were talking about Zeppelin. Now, when Zeppelin recorded Whole Lotta Love, there was like some track bleeding on part of the breakdown with the vocals, and Jimmy Page decided to leave it in. I was wondering if, like, when you produce, if there were any like mistakes or happy accidents that occur, and you decide to leave them in because they sound good.
Well, yeah. Again, you're talking about the human equation again, which I think is very good. It's very easy to clean up everything in a production. It's knowing what mistakes to leave in. That's the trick. Mm-hmm. Obviously, when Zeppelin did most of their records, I'm trying to think. It was the 70s. I don't know if they had 24-track recording. It might have been 16/24. And obviously, when you're in the studio, depending upon if they use ISO booths or not, and a lot of times with drums, they would gobo the drums to get together to try to get it. But that was the beauty about what I loved about recording bands, is actually bringing them to the studio and recording as a band instead of today, where they'll do the drums first and then they'll layer on top of that, which I think is ridiculous unless you're doing dance music. I think a song feels much better when you get everybody playing together, get good isolation, and just fix the mistakes.
Mm-hmm. I totally agree with you. You know, it gives you like that natural live feel when you do it that way.
Yeah, I mean, just to give you, for instance, I remember Metallica and Justice for All, Lars beat mapped the drums. And what I mean by beat mapping, instead of, you know, where some songs could speed up and slow down, you know, he might do a verse at 116, and then maybe the B section, he would go maybe 2 BPMs more and map that in, and then put the chorus whatever. There's like 50 million edits. To me, it's all about, you know, let the song breathe, let the song jump up a little bit, go down, but don't ever map it. Let the band retard a beat naturally instead of, you know, mapping it out that way.
That happens to a lot of people. I've been reading Peter Criss's book, you know, all about Kiss, and, you know, producing is very important because he was saying in the book that the first 3-4 albums, the songs were there, but they were not being produced. I mean, they were playing live, and it was so powerful. And then when they were doing the records, they were very, very, you know, weak sounding. They weren't getting that power in the records that they really wanted to get, like that live feeling.
Yeah.
So
well,
that
see, you brought up a great point because, again, most bands like Kiss, okay, they perform in front of tons of people, thousands of people. Can you imagine taking that energy into a recording studio when you have a couple of people in control room? All right, band, now I want you to play like this 50,000, you play in front of 50,000 people. That's a tough thing. Real quick, interesting Kiss story. My ex-partner, Mike Barbiero, recorded a Kiss album. I'm not sure which one it was, but I remember they spent 2 or 3 weeks just trying to get a drum sound. And I remember Mike telling me, when he first got the drum sound, Mike said this was perfect, but they did so many different things, tried every different which way, and then at the end of the 3rd week, I think the band says, "Hey, Mike, do you think you can get that drum sound you had originally back?"
Yeah, that happened with me in the studio with when my band Crystallized, when with Frank Carrillo was producing us. We did the first live. We did it live. We played the song Tomorrow, I remember, and we just did it live, and they just recorded it for the hell of it, and it sounded great. And then when we actually did the recording where we were just laying down tracks, it lost the energy, it lost the power, because we weren't playing as a band. It was exactly like on the band. You got the crowd making you crazy. I mean, you listen to I Want to Rock and Roll All Night, the recorded version, and you listen to the live version, 2 different things. That's the same thing with Cheap Trick. Same thing.
Yeah, I worked on one Kiss song. It's called Forever. I actually did very well. In fact, I think it was the highest pop record they ever had. It was a ballad, and I thought it was very well done. Well, that's the thing about, again, you know, we talk about new school recording. Again, I use every modern tool you can think of. But at the end of the day, they're tools, not performers. And I think the lost art is being able to direct a band, do great pre-production, know what you're doing, getting the band psyched up, and let them play as a band. Just make sure you have great isolation. I just worked with a band, A Starry Night. If you like Depeche Mode, you'll love this band. They're out of Florida. Great band, you know.
That's the same thing with Cheap Trick's I Want You to Want Me. You listen to the studio version and then the live one at Budokan. The live one at Budokan is what made the song a hit. Same thing like...
Well, there's a lot of problems, too, in the studio about direction. You know, certain producers want to be sterile and slick, where I go for 100% feel. Excuse me while I cough again.
Yeah. And we just got another caller. Ladies and gentlemen, we have one of the top DJs in Long Island, New York City, Rob Rush from 94.3 FM, The Shocked, Everything That Rocks, baby. Rob Rush, you there?
You're too kind to me with that introduction, Sal.
I don't know if
I'm paying you enough.
I listen to you every day, man, from 2 p.m. till 6 p.m. every day. You play tons of stuff that Steve Thompson produced, by the way.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Rob. What's up, dude?
Nothing much, man. Well, I told Sal, you know, you had mentioned earlier WLIR, and I had met you a long time ago, probably
had to be at a Lux event, maybe like the late 90s, early 2000s. Malibu Sue had introduced me to you because I told her she knew I was a fan of Life of Agony. She said, "Oh, I think Steve produced one of their albums." And, you know, I still talk to Joey every once in a blue moon, and he had nothing but nice things to say.
How they do it? First of all, the lead singer went change of sex. What's his name?
Keith, now Mina, yeah.
Yeah. Well, that was I actually enjoyed working with that band, that record, and we did some crazy things. We did a cover of Simple Minds, Don't You Want Me? Don't You Forget About Me?
Yeah.
I'll never forget this. Let's just make this the weirdest version we could possibly ever do. But, you know,
it kind of had that new wave feel still in the beginning, like the LIR kind of feel, and it was a little bit darker, but yeah, it was a great take on it.
Yeah, I wanted to be real dark and everything, and I remember I used to do a lot of shows with Dennis on LIR. I used to love, that was my favorite station. I remember, even at that time, I think I was working at the clubs, I would do Dennis's morning show with him, and I'd probably work in the club till 4 in the morning and get to Dennis's show at 6 in the morning.
Back in the day when you were able to do that, yeah.
Did you at least sleep for 2 hours or an hour and a half?
No. I mean, you know, I've always been nocturnal. I remember one time when I got the John Lennon to do John Lennon's record. I remember, you know, Yoko did. She interviewed 50 million people to, you know, see who was a good fit to work on this record. And I went to the Dakota, did my interview, and she would read tarot cards while she was interviewing me. Didn't think much of it, and about a month or two later, I got a call about 5 in the morning from her assistant. I think that picture you showed, that guy Sam, with the glasses that Sean was on the lap, he calls me and says, "Yoko would like to see you now," and I was living in Long Island at the time. So I just got out of the club, so I drove away from Long Island into Manhattan. I get to the Dakota, it says, "You're hired," and that was it. They couldn't tell me on the phone. I had to drive all the way there and back. I thought it was pretty funny.
They wanted to see your expression. Now that was what, the Milk and Honey album?
Yeah, that was the Milk and Honey album. What was interesting about that record is a lot of those songs were demos, and some of them were going to be on Double Fantasy, and, you know, obviously they picked and chose what they want on Double Fantasy, and a lot of them were songs that were just in demo shape.
No, I figured that. I mean, because he was, you know, he did the Double Fantasy, you know, that was all ready to go. But then I figured those were all demos, because you could hear it in John Lennon singing where he's just kind of goofing around a lot, which is dynamite. But I believe if he was still alive, that would have been the way he, you know, did things while he was singing.
Well, it's interesting. You take songs like Nobody Told Me There'd Be Days Like These. It was interesting. I mean, Yoko's original vision was to bring in Paul Schaefer and a bunch of musicians to embellish the tracks with there. And I talked her out of it. Said, "Yoko, there's a certain charm here. Let's just keep what's there. We'll make it sound as good as we can."
Yeah. No, it's great.
And John was always
great
a jokester anyway. I mean, this guy, you know, it's unfortunate that I worked with him after he passed on. It was a shame. But it was really interesting is actually passing on working with Paul McCartney.
You passed on that, huh? You were supposed to work with McCartney and you took a pass?
You know why I did? Because, you know, I idolize those guys so much, and if I'm going to work on a record with them, it's got to be the best thing they've ever done. And I felt that the material Paul was working on at the time just didn't fit that thing. So, you know, I sat down with Paul and said, "Paul, I really want to work with you, but I think you're in experimental mode right now. Why don't you get these songs more defined, what you want to do, and then tell me when you're happy with it, we'll get together and sort it out."
Now, how many producers could say that they turned Paul McCartney down?
Well, I think the worst thing is I turned down work with Jimmy Page. I didn't
really
want to do that at all. I mean, there's a couple I turned down, but I kind of had to. I remember we had turned down Jane's Addiction on the first record, loved them, but he had a heroin problem. We were worried about what we were going to get in the studio. And I remember I had the demo of Jane's Set. I always loved that song. But, you know, getting back to, we were talking about McCartney. I mean, that was a tough thing because, you know, again, my name goes on these things, and I have my goal always, no matter who I work with, no matter what album number it is, I got to make the best record they ever did. And obviously that's a subjective thing to do. I remember when I worked with Korn on Follow Leader. I mean, That first record, amazing record. How do you top that record?
Mm.
You know, and
that was a big hit.
Huh?
That was a big hit. I remember that.
Yeah, I mean, they had 1 million fans. And my thing is, well, how do I get a band like Korn to the mainstream without compromising what they do and not pissing off their fan base?
Yeah.
And I think the first song I worked on was Freak on a Leash. And I remember going into pre-production with them. I said, okay, how do you guys write? Fieldy plays a bass line. I said, cool. How else do you write? Fieldy plays a bass line. So I said, okay, we're going to change this concept up a little bit. I said, Jonathan, let's write lyrics together. We'll get lyrics. David, the drummer, give me some drum grooves. I brought in Dr. Dre's program. I wanted them to change up their writing style because I write too as well, obviously. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to get fresh ideas. So that's how that came about. And I think it was really interesting because rock was dead at that point, and NSYNC and Backstreet Boys were fighting for the number 1 and 2 positions on the pop charts. And when Korn came out, boom, resurrected rock, went right up to the top of the charts, and then bands like Deftones and all these other bands came out, so it was kind of cool.
Yeah,
that was a great song. Really, it was a great song.
And Rob Rush plays that kind of stuff all day long, right, Rob? I hear it. I've been listening to your show every day. I'm like, wow, you play nothing but all this stuff from the '90s and the late '80s and the mid '90s, right?
Yeah, it's like a newer classic rock. You know, it's everything that's past the supposed state. We'll still throw in Black Sabbath and Led Zeppelin, but we're playing a lot of Korn or AC/DC, and then Nirvana, Pearl Jam, Papa Roach. We'll throw on whatever's clever. That does well.
Well, what's interesting, which I kind of feel sad about, is obviously there's a lot of great music out there today. To say that there isn't, then people have their heads in the sand. But I think a lot of the record companies have taken a pass on rock today, maybe because there's nothing new about it. And obviously, how do you compete with bands like Zeppelin, Pink Floyd, Bowie? I mean, you look at how do you compete with that? And it's a shame. I think it'll be resurrected. I actually have some good ideas if I can find the right bands to do it with. I have some great ideas to resurrect it again.
Yeah, well, even me.
To resurrect it.
That's why I was, doing stuff for a while with Dave Novick, and I had a couple of little young kid groups. With the boy band thing is very popular. This whole, Nickelodeon thing and the Disney thing. All these kids, like
Selena
Gomez,
yeah.
It's really big right now, And
again, teen idols are always going to be around. Always going to be around. I'm probably one of the few people in the music industry that actually like Taylor Swift. I know I'll get a lot of boos for that.
No, but
I think she's a great songwriter, and she resonates to the kids, and I love that about her. And
they're all really big. I mean, all of them. I mean, Demi Lovato. Even I'm a fan of that because I've been getting 4 or 5 different young kids been recording my songs. So I've been very interested in hearing what these young kids are doing. So this way, when I'm writing songs and getting them to these kids, it's kind of like in that same feel. That's why I've been pushing the song "Can't Love Without You" like crazy to all these kids. I got about 4 or 5 different young kids who recorded it. And matter of fact, Patrick Clifford has been listening to that. Hopefully, maybe I'll get a publishing deal. But
there you go. Well, the most important thing is, when you're writing again, I write lyrics. I write lyrics for today's generation. Like I said, you can't write a Beatles song lyrically and get over with the crowd today. You have to be very cognizant of, the type of artist you're working with and what kind of, what is your demographics, who are you trying to appeal to, and once you figure that out, then you have to say it in lyrics. Mm-hmm. That's very important because I get songs every day, and some of them are great writers, but again, you have to know what kind of audience you're trying to appeal to.
Exactly. That's with every kind of style of music. I mean, like, the kid thing, there's the young boy band thing, Justin Bieber. They have all this kid stuff appeals to the kids.
Justin, I kind of feel sorry for a little bit because here's a pretty boy that's trying to act tough, and I call that peer pressure. He hangs out with these hip-hop guys, and he thinks he has to be tough and cool and everything like that, and he's doing stupid things.
Yeah, getting in a lot of trouble. And
that's peer pressure, and that's obviously what Miley Cyrus did was a brilliant woman. She knew what she had to do to get over, You know, and the bad boy thing, Justin, I think you need to grow up a little bit and take charge of your life a little bit and stop being stupid at times.
Mm. Yeah, it's a shame because, you know, he's got such a good big career, and why throw it all away after you got this far? I mean, in the beginning,
you know, again, it's peer pressure. It's what it is. You know, it's who you hang with, you know. And let's face it, when we were that age, I don't even want to tell you what I was doing at that age.
Oh, yeah, me too. I'm
yeah, we all make these mistakes. Hopefully he doesn't go off the deep end.
The thing is with him is he's so popular, and you hear about it, you know, and he's, you know, caught, and it's in the papers.
Understand one thing, Sal. I think everybody gets this. I mean, we're in such a media-driven, you know, with internet and everything like that. You want publicity, it could be as bad as the worse it is, the better it is for your career for most of the time, and that's a shame. I mean, you look at all the reality shows today, you look at Duck Dynasty, all these things, which please, and crocodiles and this and that. Give me a break.
Well,
let's go back to Leave It to Beaver.
Yeah, doing crazy things has been the smart. I mean, that's been going on for so many years. I mean, even in the day, you know, Madonna coming on the David Letterman show with a cigar and cursing. She knows, you know, it's a smart move. You know, that's going to be on the front page the next day. And the same thing.
Yeah, it's a shock value. Anyway, did you have a question for me? By the way, I'm sorry. I think we got up on a tangent here.
You mean Rob Rush?
Rob, yeah.
Me? No, I didn't have a question. I was just, came on to tell, how the one time that I met you, and I said, wow, you know, I was just, Steve Thompson was, you know, the record producer, and coming back from a radio background, and I do all the commercials for some of the stations, me and my partner Sean, so it's kind of producing on a smaller scale. You're producing, you know, a bunch of musicians. I'm producing, you know, voices and music and combining them to make a 60-second commercial. You're making 70-minute rock operas.
Hey, well, you're voiceovers, man. I mean, again, I'm apologizing for my voice because I have a deep chest cold, so I probably sound, I'm making baritone work today.
No, that's fine.
Joanne, is there any other callers on hold? I'm sure there's probably about 100 callers waiting right now. Let's see.
No, there aren't. And
there's
people in the chat room, but no one else has called in. Everyone's listening and having a good time doing so.
I figure I'd ask just in case you had a few on hold, you know.
Well, I think you were asking me what I've been up to lately.
Yeah, so also, Steve, you've been doing some new stuff. I mean, for people out there who don't know what's going on, like in your new projects, that's a cool thing.
Well, we got a ton of things. My manager, Steve Eggleston from Vegas, we're just put together this amazing company called Live Famous. And there's going to be a TV show involved, branding, merchandising, everything. I can't really be specific what the TV show is, but it's going to be amazingly exciting, and we're really happy about it.
Well,
the other thing is I wrote a sports anthem that we're in talks now with people like will.i.am, Steven Tyler, and a couple of other people who's going to sing it. Mm-hmm. And obviously I have a bunch of artists I'm working with as well. And the main thing that what I did was I co-wrote a movie called Souls with a friend of mine, Ken Kushner, another New York guy, amazing film producer, and we wrote a story together that is going to be one of the blockbusters of blockbusters I'm real excited about.
Well, you know, I was going to, I didn't know if you wanted me to mention about the movie business stuff you're also getting involved in and the TV show stuff that me and you have been talking about. And so I'm glad you came up with it because I said I should have asked Steve if he wanted me to mention that. I didn't know if you were keeping it under
I don't
hat.
mind. You know, right now we're dealing with business plans and investors. I mean, that's always a lot of fun. I just like to be on the creative end of it. Thank God Steve, my manager, he knows what he's doing. Right. And, you know, just with people like that. But it was interesting. I've worked on a lot of movies, music-wise. Probably my best movie I worked on was Return of the Jedi. And I had a choice to do that or Flashdance at the time. And it was the worst piece of crap song. It was called Lafty Neck. It was the Ewoks doing a song. But it was so cool to have my name on the film poster. So that was cool. I worked View to a Kill with Duran Duran and a bunch of other movies. I always did soundtracks. And it was kind of interesting because I worked with Danny Elfman in L.A., and he was doing a lot of soundtracks at the time. Well, I mean, Danny is a genius. Him and his string arranger, Steve Parczak. I mean, what a great team. In fact, my movie, what I'm going to do is, since it's a timeless movie, I'm going to write with some people. We're going to write all new music, all new classical music, because I want it to be kind of timeless and not just do like electronic music or whatever. I want to keep it like, be the new Tchaikovsky or something, Mussorgsky, if it gets deep.
That's great.
So
and we have
going to be
another
a challenge.
caller. We have another caller, Steve, a friend of yours. Jake, are you there?
Yeah, I sure am. Thanks for taking the call tonight.
Sorry about that. It's just Brother Steve is so in demand over here that people can't even get through anymore.
I'll tell you what, it's a good show tonight. Enjoying it immensely.
Thanks.
Hey,
take it away, Jake.
For Steve tonight.
Wait, hold on. First of all, who is this? I didn't catch the name.
I'm sorry, it's Jake. I'm sorry. You're right.
Jake?
Jake. Which
Steve?
Jake is this? I know a couple of Jakes.
Oh, this is Jake Jason, actually.
Oh, okay. What's up, man?
Hey, how's it going, Steve?
Good, man. Trying to get rid of this cold and having fun on the airways with Brother Sal.
Hey, you sounded pretty good at that baritone, most definitely. Sorry you guys are getting all that weather back on the East Coast. I'm feeling sorry for you guys.
Oh,
I
dude,
love,
man.
I love
just
the
can't take
accent.
it anymore. I just want to be on an island and repopulate it with something.
I hear you,
we'll
brother.
get two
I
of
hear you.
everything.
Jake,
Hey,
I
got
love
a
the
quick
accent.
question for you.
Where you calling from?
Calling from the Rocky Mountains.
Wow, look at that. See, that's the great thing about internet radio. I mean, people call from all over the world, man. Great.
I tell you what, man, we wish we had some of that good snow up here in the Rockies of Colorado.
Well, I'll tell you what, take a plane out here
we'll
and get a big-ass shovel, and you can start getting rid of the snow off my house.
I tell you, I'm feeling
Yeah,
sorry
all
for you
you
guys
want
on
is
the East
free.
Coast there, Central. Hey, I got a quick question. I know we've got probably some young listeners online, probably some up-and-coming artists. But my question is, what practical advice would you give a young artist that is, kind of developing their genre, a good technical songwriter, musician, still kind of putting their teams together, but what real practical advice would you give someone as far as, not only producing, but getting their music to the public? We're dealing right now with this digital water stuff, and I'm seeing so many artists and even real inexperienced ones that are just putting their stuff out in digital water, which is cool. But as far as protecting those rights of the songs that they're written, what advice would you give to a young upstart artist? Well,
I mean, obviously YouTube is the new radio station for the world where people get to explore new music and new artists. It's a catch-22 situation. I don't like, because, again, music is not cheap to make. I tell it to everybody. And, we're in a today generation where, hey, why do I need to pay for it when I can get it for free? I can't say as I blame them if they have that option. But at the same time, for an artist, I mean, it's a question of how do they get it out there, or what is the exact question you're looking at here? How to protect it?
As marketing oneself and making, making a decent living, not necessarily being a superstar, as we know it's in the entertainment industry.
Yeah, okay, I get the gist of your question. Well, there's a lot of pluses to being on the Internet where, anybody in the world can get their stuff on the Internet and able to market them. I think making a great video, the show what you like, make it fun, you can even make it controversial, because it seems like when you make something controversial that people gravitate to it better.
Right.
There's a lot, from Spotfly. I mean, there's just so many Internet options there. And, if you want to get noticed by a record company, if you get like 20 or 30 million hits, they'll look at you.
Yeah, that's it.
So using the media of a YouTube, shooting for that 30,000 mark to get some notoriety.
Yeah, well, now I think anything under 20 million, they don't look at you. It's kind of sad because there used to be what they called an A&R department in record companies today. Today, it's I think they have people that are listed as A&R people that just troll YouTube all day.
Isn't it crazy, man? It's amazing.
Well, hey, I mean, there's such a lot of artists out there, and artist development is long gone, which that's another thing I'm going to be working on as far as my Live Famous company, there's going to be an arm in the company to actually develop artists and develop them before we'd even talk to a major label putting them out there. So basically doing it ourselves.
Well, that's the way it is.
That's
exciting.
exciting.
You have to do it.
Sounds exciting.
Yeah,
well, it is,
because
the bottom line is, I mean, the shows like American Idol and everything like that, to me, is like karaoke.
Absolutely.
I don't need to see somebody sing like Whitney Houston. I'd rather artists be their own people.
And I don't mean
keep
to...
it's about being unique. Stop following other people. Obviously, all musicians have influences, and that's going to show in their art.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's very important. I mean, take like an artist like Lorde. Love her or hate her. I mean, I love her. When she came out with that song was unique and different, and that's what made her stand out from a lot of other artists today.
Exactly. Listening to what the artist has in her heart.
Right. To me, it's about
to polish it, to be able to market it.
Well, that's another
to the
thing.
public.
I really feel strongly about artists working with great producers, and again, there's good producers and bad producers. The good producers will see what the artist is capable of doing and take them to that next level, and not try to make them like another Taylor Swift or another this or that, but get the artistry out of that artist. And then you have to determine, okay, what's my audience? What audience am I trying to go for?
Back to that demographics.
Right, that's important. Once you find that out, then you develop it. And it's all about at the end of the day, it's all about great songs.
That's right.
Absolutely.
That's right.
Absolutely.
I was neutered by Clive Davis, and he told me the value of a great song. People like Clive and Quincy Jones, they tell me, if you could sit down and listen to a song straight for 18 hours, you got something special and not get bored.
That's right.
Good advice right there. Good advice.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm going to let you guys go. Appreciate the show. You guys are doing a good job, and keep up the good work.
Hey, let me ask you one question before you leave. What's the temperature where you are?
It's actually good, kind of warm out here. I think we might have hit low 40s today.
Well, that's not good. Okay, all right. Well,
yeah. My manager, Steve, from Vegas, it's got a jury today. It's 71 and cloudy. I forgot to put the air conditioner on. I want to pounce on him right there.
That, huh?
Unbelievable.
All right, guys. Hey, appreciate it. Let's share the music, share the love, keep it going. Thanks.
No problem.
Good talk. Brother Steve, man, so tell us a couple of little stories. This show is almost over. We got 8 minutes left. Yeah, it's 9:52 already. Tell us a couple of funny experiences or stories you had, like working, let's say, with Madonna or Guns N' Roses. A couple of funny little things that happen in the studio. That'd be cool.
There's a funny story with Guns N' Roses. We did the project in New York City, and I lived in Long Island, a house in Long Island at the time, and I would bring Slash out to the house, and was kind of funny. I actually wanted to go to the beach one morning, and Slash was just passed out on the couch. So I took two big-ass speakers, put them right by his head, and blasted on 11. I think I was playing like AC/DC. So it almost looked like the Memorex commercial where the hair flies back.
Exactly. The guy sitting on the chair.
Yeah, I did that too. I remember, I think the first song we mixed on Appetite was It's So Easy. And I remember when the guitars kicked in, I wanted them to go on 11 immediately. So, when we did playback, we blasted the music loud. And I remember on the playback, we probably blew about 4 sets of speakers on playback because it was obnoxious. And then I said, it's right.
Now, I was at that house there. I remember that me and you hung out all day. We played some pool. I remember you had a little gym happen. We worked out a little bit. That was a great house. I wish you still lived there, man, because, everybody's moved away and you're too far away to hang out now with you. Huh?
Well, I'll probably get another place in New York. It got to a point where I just need to get out of the rat race for a while. Like where I live now, and again, in my job, I travel around the world, so it's not like I have to live in New York or L.A. or things like that. I could be mobile. So I think it's important for my sanity that when I'm not working to shut it down. And it's funny, everybody says, well, you have a studio in your house? I says, hell no. I don't want a studio in my house. I do my writing. I got my keyboards and everything here. I could do my writing here, but I don't want to put a studio in the house. I just think home time should be home time.
Yeah. Well, that's the paisan in you, man.
Yeah, the Paisan, yeah.
The Paisan, the Italian men. The Italian men like to do the work and then come home. They don't want to know about work when they're home, you know?
Well, no, I do a lot of work at home. You know, we have different hours here. You know, I'm up wee hours of the morning, you know, working on stuff and listening to music. You know, it's just that
well, I mean, you don't
just have to know when to shut it off. You know,
right.
And you know, I always want to be fresh when I tackle something. I don't want to be burnt out.
Yeah. Well, what I meant was having a studio in your house. Are you still working in the house when you're writing and stuff like that? But even me, I mean, I have
programmers that I can go back and forth on. I Skype, you know. And that's the beauty about technology today. You know, I could do a lot of pre-production before I even walk in the studio when I work with somebody, so that's a good thing. It saves you money in the studio.
Yeah, and people who are listening out there, any bands or singers or artists who would like to try to do some work with Steve, if you guys want to hire Steve as a producer on any of your demos, you just go to SteveThompson.com or your Facebook page. You got a Facebook page?
I mean, my website is SteveThompsonProductions.com. It has all the contact information. You can contact my manager. And the one thing is, everybody, you know, expects me to work for free. It doesn't work that way. Sorry, people. We all have to make a living here. So, you know, if you're serious and you have something unique and special, feel free to go on my website, get the contact numbers, and we'll take it from there.
Yeah, I mean, I know Steve since 1985, and I've never got produced by you for free. We never actually worked in music that way at all. That's the funny thing about it, right?
Oh, I remember you guys playing at the China Club all the time.
I played there once a month, sometimes twice a month for 10 years.
You were like the house band there, weren't you?
Yeah, well, at one time, Crystallized, my band, we were the third highest drawing band in New York City. Because they kept all the bands in the computers. I remember Tommy Allen. Remember Tommy Allen who did the booking at the China Club?
Oh, God. I think I know you're talking about band with names and everything like that. Did he have dark hair?
No, he had actually blonde hair. He was a drummer. Well, he used to, all the clubs in Manhattan, the Limelight, the China Club, the Cat Club, they all kept track of what bands had like a high draw. So they had in their computers, and he showed me. The first highest drawing band back in the late 80s and 90s was La Bamba and the Hubcaps.
What? La Bamba and the Hubcaps?
Do you remember
that? Was that a 50s band?
No, that was, what's his name, man? What's the keyboard player's name? He played with everybody. He played with Mason Reese. He played on so many records. What's his name? Oh, Jesus Christ. It's right on the tip of my tongue. They were called La Bamba and the Hubcaps. They were like, they played, it was all musicians that are real happening guys. I can't remember the rest of them, but they were like, almost like David Letterman has the band, you have Will Lee, people like that. So La Bamba and the Hubcaps were all band members from like different bands, but I can't even remember who they are, half of them. They were the first, and I forgot who the second band was, and we were in there for the third highest drawing band in New York City, because we were the first band to play the Limelight. And like 2,000 invitations came in the door because we got every club promoter involved in that gig.
I DJ'd at the Limelight a couple of times, did a couple of guest spots there. Who was it? DJ Mark Kamens? Was he Limelight or was that Danceteria?
Oh, Jesus, Danceteria, you're going back. I used to go to Danceteria, man.
Oh, my favorite place to DJ was the Paradise Garage. That was an awesome club. I did a couple of guest spots at Studio 54. That was a joke. I'll tell you a quick funny story. Steve Rebell, I don't know what kind of drugs this guy was doing. This was hysterical. He would sit on a chair outside of the club. There'd be about 5 million people trying to get in this club. Meanwhile, it was like 15 people he let in the club. And I would put a tape on just to watch his antics, Oh, you can go. No, don't even bother. Just go home. And he would just, if he did this stuff today, he would have been shot. What he would do to people, if you look like you were from Brooklyn, forget it. He wasn't going to let you in.
Oh, that's hysterical. Well, they were doing that with a lot of clubs.
Basically, they were about getting the celebrities in there and getting the people that would entertain the celebrities, like the transvestites and everybody dressed crazy and everything like that. That's what he was shooting for.
Yeah, well, this goes back to even what we're talking about with American Idol. Either you're incredibly amazing or you're so bad that you're actually stupid and funny. There's no in between. You couldn't get in a club like that dressed up in regular clothes. Either you were a freak or, just like like you said, Studio 54, and you had to stand out from the rest. It's just the way It was back then, you know. I don't think that's been going on these days anymore, right?
Oh, I'm sure it is, but I think it's
I haven't been in clubs in a long time. But anyway,
well, I think first of all, it's all about you're going to buy that $1,000 bottle of wine or something like that. Then you can come in. You know, I'm sure they have the VIP treatments and
exactly.
You know, to make a club hip and cool. It's interesting because my home away from home in L.A. is the Sunset Marquis Hotel. Great hotel. I stayed there forever, and they had a bar there, the Whiskey Bar. I remember one night I was hanging out with Dave Grohl, Jonathan from Korn, the cast of 90120, and it was just hysterical that night, absolutely hysterical. And Drew Barrymore walks in, she's drunk off her ass. I had to watch her.
Oh, man. But you know what, folks? It's just, Steve, we have to do another show with you pretty soon because this hour just flew by. It's 10 p.m. We're going to get cut off any second. So I want to thank Steve Thompson for being my guest tonight and all you guys who called in. And, Steve, I'll let you know. I don't know if Joanne, are you there?
I'm here.
Will we be able to let Steve know how many people were tuned in tonight, or do I have to wait till tomorrow?
Tomorrow morning.
Okay, tomorrow morning. Tomorrow, Steve, I'll let you know how many thousands.
I want to thank everybody for listening. Hopefully it was fun for everyone. I had a great time, and again, sorry for being sick. But I had a great time, and good talking to you, Brother Sal.
Yes, love you,
Joanne.
man. And, I'll give you a ring
Good
tomorrow,
talking to
man.
you. Good listening, Steve. Great show.
Oh, great. I'm glad. I hope everybody had a good time.
Absolutely.
Well, Sal, give me a call in a couple of minutes, okay?
Absolutely, definitely.
All right, take care, guys, and everybody have a good night, and looking forward to spring.
All right, man. Thank you, Steve. Cheers, folks.
Bye, Steve.
Take care. Bye.
Thank you for listening. This has been a Mathis Media Hub production.